So how do you deliver an e-commerce package? You call someone and the person says, in this gully, neem ke ped ke paas, dusra ghar mera hai. And you have to figure a way out to reach that place and deliver that.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Beyond Business Hours, a podcast, a candid conversation with influential leaders, with leaders of the industry, and just generally awesome people is where it comes to life on this very set. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Mr. Amit Kumar, the current CEO and head of OLX India. Our guest today is a leader who's been instrumental in shaping some of India's most renowned fashion marketplaces. As a founding member of Jabong, he built their marketplace from the ground up. At Snapdeal, he headed the entire fashion category. He didn't just stop there. He then turned the tide for OLX India, where he turned it to a profitable success. He's not just about results though. Amit's approach shows a deep understanding of what it takes to build something that lasts. If you're interested at what it really takes to drive change, scale businesses, and make an impact, you're in for a treat. Amit, thank you so much for being here, and it's a real pleasure to have you here. How are you doing?
Thanks. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here and talking to you.
I'm glad you could make it. Thank you so much for coming on. Just to give you a quick brief about how we will be having this podcast. So we have divided our podcast up into different sections, try to keep the conversation as candid, as fun as possible. And whatever your heart desires, whatever you feel like saying, please do feel free to go and tell us. And of course, all the viewers watching are extremely interested to know what it looks like for what is going on inside Amit's head.
Sure.
Wonderful. So Amit, your journey spans across multiple industries and across multiple leadership roles as well, finally leading you to head OLX India today. Can you walk us through some pivotal moments that redefined or shaped your career to what it is today?
Sure. I think it's a very simple answer if I tell you my professional journey, but the journey of any leader actually starts with how his family and his parents shaped him as an individual. And I do believe that those moments or those things also played an important role in who I am today as a leader, as a business builder. And I come from a lower middle class, typical Indian family, dad banker, mom homemaker. And that had some very, very important things to shape me up. We are typical Marwaris from Rajasthan. So the importance of caring for every penny was deeply ingrained in very, very beginning of my journey itself. And I think, again, the importance of trust and transparency in the family also sort of goes a long way in building who I am. And some of these values have continued with me in the journey. I started my career at Britannia, which is a large Indian FMCG company, and it's one of the most deeply distributed companies in the country. And at the time I was working with them in 2006, they would go to close to 1 million retail outlets directly.
Wow.
And when you start your journey as a graduate management trainee in a company like that, you just learn how businesses happen in this country. You learn as to how you think about a consumer need and translate that into an actual product with flour and sugar and palm oil. And then how do you make money out of it? So a lot of learning came out of my work at Britannia. And something that is very close to my heart is that, Britannia, you consume tons and tons of wrapper to wrap the biscuit. And we would actually look at the cost of that wrapper to the next decimal paise and see if we could print that wrapper in one color less and save some more money.
Wow.
Right. And then Britannia also got me around to different parts of the country. I went to Northeast, worked in Guwahati, sold biscuits in Siliguri, sitting with a salesman. So a lot of good understanding of this country came with working at Britannia. Then I spent some time in telcos. And the last 12-13 years have been spent in the digital ecosystem of the country. Started with Times Internet Limited. And when you start in the digital ecosystem, I do believe that being a product manager at the very beginning can help you, because as a product manager, you get a very deep understanding of how the whole organization works. How does a user come on your platform? How does a user use your platform and your services? And I was fortunate enough to start as a product manager in an e-commerce business. Later on, I joined Jabong, and there it was my first intrapreneurial or entrepreneurial experience. And I still remember the day 1 or 2 at Jabong, and I was given something to do, and I was thinking how to do it, and the founder came to me and asked me, "Have you done it already?" And that's when you suddenly are on rocket boosters trying to do things much faster than you've ever seen getting them before. After that, I had a stint abroad. I was based out of Paris, and I was trying to build e-commerce in Africa, in Eastern Europe, and in parts of Asia. But these countries were frontier countries. I was trying to do e-commerce in Nigeria and Ghana and Nepal, and some very, very interesting and challenging problems that I was trying to solve. So at the time that we were in Nepal, the formal addressing system is very weak. So how do you deliver an e-commerce package? You call someone and the person says, in this gully neem ke ped ke paas dusra ghar mera hai. And you have to figure a way out to reach that place and deliver that order. So some very interesting challenges that came my way. But going to Paris and living in a developed world country was also good, and good for not just for me professionally, but for my family also. Me and my kids and my wife, we learned how the other side of the world looks like, and where will India be in the next few decades. What develops, how does it develop, how does developed infrastructure look like, what parts of India have reached where. So I could really contrast my way to knowing India, knowing Europe, and actually working and trying to build e-commerce in Nigeria and Nepal and Sri Lanka. So I was looking at the spectrum of world and spectrum of things and learning a lot. I think after that, I came back to India, worked at Snapdeal for a couple of years, building the profitable or tending to be profitable fashion business. But a lot of what I've done in the last 7 years at OLX has shaped me as a leader. We started building the transactions business in cars, just grounds up from scratch. We built it to almost 3,000 people within a couple of years.
Wow.
And then the whole cycle changed, and we as an organization, we were acquired by Car Trade Tech. And today we are a profitable classifieds company, growing, part of a listed company. So yeah, I mean, the world has sort of taken full circle from building things from scratch to making it a profitable company.
Wonderful. I think it's such a honest and candid answer. And I love the fact that you started off by talking about the support system that actually got you to where you are. You mentioned in the middle that family has been a very big part for where you are today. Yeah. Always kind of looked out that wherever your career or your professional experience has gotten you, it wouldn't be there without, the kind of backing that we have had from our families, our loved ones, our friends and family. I tell this to a lot of people as well that, when we're trying to speak to a buyer or when we're trying to get somebody to do something, right? It's very difficult to change the way that they have been thinking over the last 20 years, right? Because that's just their ethics, how they've been brought up, what values they have. So how do you kind of mold your products or your answers or how you inspire people to what exactly fits for them? So it's a very honest answer. And, I think anybody watching this would also, I hope they understand, because a lot of people don't talk about it, right? They mention कि this is my professional experience, ये मैंने अच्छा किया है, यहाँ पे मुझे learning मिली है, ये मुझे mentor मिला है. But very few of them, at least on public platforms, do they talk about the importance of how family or how loved ones can support you. You've given a very good description of how you have reached where you are today, and coming from some of the best colleges in the country, working with some of the top companies in the country as well. I guess a common question, this could be you could maybe say it's a silly question, but what is left for Amit Kumar to achieve now?
I think there are a lot of ways to say it, but the way I think about it, as an individual, you are learning every day. And I still remember the day I was graduating from ISB, and one of the speakers there said that whenever you are comfortable, you should know that this is the time to move to something else, something more interesting, something more challenging. And that has been a constant theme for me personally and professionally. People in Hindi could say ghat ghat ka pani piya hai. But I think there is enough and more merit in the initial parts of your career to look at breadth At OLX, I've been fortunate. I've spent 7 years, but every 6 months to an year, I've been given a very, very deeply entrenched consumer challenge or a business building challenge. And that's why I continue to enjoy it. So every 6 months to an year, there is a new challenge. I mean, last year we went through a transaction, a large team, taking it from one investor to another investor, stabilizing a business, making it profitable, and then growing it. So I think if challenges keep coming your way and you are willing to learn from those challenges, that's the right journey to have as a professional. And personally, I also feel the same way. So, one of the things that in the last couple of years that I've started doing or tried doing, and age starts to kick in when you are more than 40. So I started doing yoga and started learning yoga. And again, it's about doing something more every day to become a better person.
I think upskilling is something that never stops, right?
Yeah.
It's a very important factor.
Should not stop.
Should not stop either.
Yeah.
Good. And, I think a lot of our viewers actually are interested to even understand myself personally, like I was having a chat with you before. What does the day in the life of Amit Kumar look like?
Yeah, it's a simple answer. I wake up at around 4 o'clock every day.
Achha, okay.
Yeah. By 4:20, 4:25, my yoga instructor is there. And I do yoga till 5:30, 5:45. And it's both me and my wife doing yoga. And as I said, right, we picked up yoga a couple of years back. At 5:30, either me and my wife could have a small chat because we don't get much time to talk during the day, or I could go back to sleep for 30 to 45 minutes. At 6:30, we wake up again. We get our kids ready to school and I drop them off to the bus. And I do that because I think that's the only time I get meaningfully with my kids as well.
Yeah.
After 7:30, again, it's about a few things here and there, getting ready, maybe reading a bit of news. By 9:30, I'm in office. The first thing that I have is my daily stand-up where as a team, we are talking about our daily priorities. The first half is largely about, some of the internal stuff or some of the things that I'm trying to do. The second half is more about updates and reviews, and some of these things stack up during the week. I try and finish things off by 7:30. Go back home, and I'm fortunate enough to be around 20 to 25 minutes from my home. I go back home, play a bit of TT if the season is, or tennis, or a bit of swimming. By 8:30 we have dinner. By 9:30, 10 I am in the bed. So that's, let's say, a very simple day that I have. But definitely during the week, first half of Sunday I keep it booked for meeting new people.
Okay.
Right, so it's that part of the day, and I just sort of during the week, whosoever I meet, if I need to or want to meet personally, then there is a Hyatt hotel right in front of my house, and a lot of new people that I meet there.
Wonderful.
So that's in general my day. Over the weekends, I do also try and spend an hour with the kids, teaching them some things, a bit of study. Yeah, but that's me.
Sounds like a very, very nice, well-balanced life, and it's a great segue to our next section, which is titled FYI, which is for your inspiration. So you have spoken about the importance of patience in a very fast-paced world. You had mentioned it in a few other interviews. You mentioned in your TEDx talk as well. So how has this philosophy influenced your decision making, especially during crucial times? How does it play a factor in your life of how you just lead companies on a day-to-day basis?
So the importance of patience, I would say, is a post hoc realization in me. A younger Amit Kumar, 10 years ago or 15 years ago or 20 years ago would have said, let's do it right away. Let's do it now. Let's get things done. But I think as you age and as 40 hits you, you try and rewind your life and understand what and how things went about. And when you do that, or when I did that, I realized that things that I stuck to, things that I kept doing, जो चीज़ें मैं लगातार करता गया, जो चीज़ों पे मैं लगातार लड़ता गया, उन चीज़ों पे मुझे सक्सेस मिली, राइट. एंड व्हेन आई थिंक और रैशनलाइज इट फॉर माई सेल्फ, मैं किसी भी प्रॉब्लम को अब एक दीवार की तरह सोचता हूँ.
ओके.
और उस दीवार में आपको दीवार के दूसरी तरफ जाना होता है, एंड यू हैव छोटा हथौड़ा, बड़ा हथौड़ा, यू कीप every day making some impact, create a small hole, so then you see what's on the other side. Then you make a slightly bigger hole, and then you can maybe push some things on the other side. And then you make an even bigger hole and solve the whole problem and go to the other side. Right?
Okay.
It's a progressive journey. So on day one, you cannot have a bomb blast and just get to the other side of the wall. And that's what at least I learned in the last 20 years. Or when you get philosophical, Gita says karmanyavadi karaste ma phaleshu kadachana. So it's about that every hit on that wall, हथौड़ी आप हर दिन दीवार पे मारते रहिए, आपको हर दिन कुछ होते हुए नहीं दिखेगा, बट फिर भी आपको हथौड़ी मारनी है क्योंकि आपको काम करना है.
बिल्कुल.
And that's a value that I strongly believe in.
I think that's a discipline as well, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
I think it's a very good analogy for how you would break down problems and look into it.
Correct.
I believe a lot of mistakes. I don't know if it is a mistake or if it is maybe it's a stage of the company dependent thing. When you're, like you said, when you were 15-20 years back, Amit Kumar would maybe throw a bomb blast at the wall and बाद में देख लेंगे क्या होगा क्या नहीं होगा, right? But today your approach is that maybe that actually takes a lot longer than slowly breaking at it. You know, you were mentioning in the past that you've worked across some top fantastic companies and have worked across different industries and with different roles that you have had. Has your past experience, has it influenced the way that you have now running a tech focused marketplace?
Of course. I think when I went through my career journey, it was definitely not a plan. But when I reflect on it as to where all I have been and what have I learned, I think there have been few great learnings from each company or each business that I have been a part of. Starting with Britannia and understanding or learning the most important thing, which is how does your consumer think? And then you build a product, because in a company like Britannia, getting to the final product, which is a biscuit or a cake, it's a long journey and a lot of investment. So you should know what your consumer wants and a lot of research in understanding your consumer. Second thing, of course, large Indian businesses, they know the value of money and frugality and scale, right? At the time that I was at Britannia, they had some 2,000 direct distributors and, as I said, 1 million direct retail outlets. How do you make a small thing very big and scale? That's what you learned, and I learned there. I think at Jabong and Rocket Internet, what I learned was fast-paced action, which is result-oriented. How do you bring a set of motivated and incentivized people to build something at a very, very good pace? Right? At OLX, I would say my learnings have been well-rounded. As OLX, earlier we were a part of a very large global company called Naspers, right? And in India, we had all the freedom that we wanted to do. And in this hybrid setup, we had the best of both worlds. We had a very, very strong investor guiding our thought process, telling us the best things that across the world were happening. And in India, we were executing with a very, very rapid pace to the targets that we had. And now, as a part of a car trade tech, we are a listed entity. Yeah? And that brings a different set of learnings, because now it's a 90-day counter. Every quarter, your results are out there for public to evaluate you. So then these are different set of priorities. And I think the biggest learning is that in this environment, you have to be quite honest and clear about what priorities you are chasing, both in long and short term. Because in short term, in 90 days, there is a certain result that you have to deliver. And you have to do that while building long-term value. And that has been a big learning.
Interesting. And you talk about learnings, and you've mentioned companies that have been part of different stages, right? Like working in an early stage, working in earlier than an early stage as well, working in Rocket Internet, Jumia, working in companies that are also currently, like for example, you are part of a listed company. So considering that you have worked in different shapes and sizes of companies, and of course most of the startup founders that you would interact with, everyone's dream is to go public, right? I think that is for a lot of people what the end goal is, right? Considering that you have been part of listed and unlisted companies, is there any advice that you would give a founder or give a business person who is, let's say, taking their company public for the first time? Is there any advice that you would want to give to somebody like that for how their experience could be changing once they are listed?
One of the things that now I strongly believe in is the fundamentals of business and fundamentals of the consumer need that you are trying to cater to shouldn't change because you are either a listed or an unlisted company,
Okay.
right? Because eventually what you're trying to do is build a profitable business that creates value for the society, that creates value for your consumer, that creates your value for you, and that creates value for your investors. And that shouldn't change, right? There could be some short-term tweaking or a long-term change, but the fundamentals remain the same. And as a founder or as a CEO, you should have the ability to stick to those. Be it listed or unlisted, I don't think that matters.
So, there's a common saying that I've heard before that there are 4 stages of a CEO for the company, right? A founder, CEO, the top management, as you would like to call it for a company. And I believe that a lot of people say that the same CEO is not a fit for all 4 stages. The 4 stages being, for somebody, there's a good fit for 0 to 1. Somebody is a good fit for, let's say, 1 to 10. Somebody is a good fit for 10 to 100. And then, of course, 100 and 100 to 1000, etc.
Sure.
Do you believe in that? Do you think that is that maybe a myth that doesn't hold truth, or how do you look at that statement?
No, I think it's a right statement. But the way to look at this statement is that Amit Kumar that is today was not the Amit Kumar that was 10 years ago. And as individuals, we need to do 2 things consistently and consciously. One thing is, what got me here will not take me there. So what got you from 0 to 1 is not going to take you from 1 to 10 or 10 to 100. And I fundamentally practice this by saying whatever was true for me, my company, my success 3 or to 6 months back is not going to make me successful now. And I should reevaluate, revalidate whatever we did and see if something is now more relevant or should be done. So one has to do this for himself as an individual, for his team or her team, as to which are the people who were making us successful 3 months ago or 6 months ago. And I think here people has to, or people, by people what I mean is, as individual, Amit Kumar learned a lot in the last 10 years. And he upskilled himself to become relevant and useful to the organization or lead the organization from 10 to 100. So the same Amit Kumar who was working at Jabong and building the marketplace, and this Amit Kumar, these are 2 different Amit Kumars. And that is how leaders should shape, reshape, recast themselves, right? Because the way to run a company of 5 people cannot be the way to run a 3,000 people company. And if I as a CEO or a founder do that, then I'm not the right person. I need to change from individual A to individual B. My skin might be changed, the same, but the thinking or thought process or prioritization needs to be different.
Agreed. And I think what you were saying in terms of how your learnings, today you're working in an environment where every 90 days you're evaluated. So I think with your, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that with your past experiences in working in very high velocity companies as compared to maybe not as high velocity, but how to kind of reprioritize, how to continuously evaluate your learnings, what is working for you, what is not working. I think those fundamentals don't change, but of course, everything around that keeps changing. This brings us to our next section, WTF, what's the future? So my first question in this segment is, with your experience across diverse geographies and different markets, which emerging market do you think will surprise the world or surprise you in the next 5 to 10 years?
Interesting question. And when I thought deeply about it, I said it is India, right? And every day when I think about the large opportunity that we as India continue to unravel, I think we will continue to surprise ourselves consistently. The way e-commerce grew till a few years back, now the quick commerce is growing. There are so many new opportunities coming in this large market of 1.4 billion, which to some surface has been penetrated by e-commerce, but there are newer innovations coming in different products, services, B2B markets. I think the world would continue to get surprised by the depth, breadth, and the entrepreneurship that we as India continue to bring. So I would put all my bets and all my chips on the newer surprises that we would keep getting from India.
I will definitely place my bets on India as well. But Amit, I was just thinking about this. We as a country in India, of course, strength is our people are our strength. I believe that we are excellent at solving problems operationally, right? We can figure out better ways to do something than maybe a lot of other countries in this planet. With due respect to all other countries and companies who are currently running their businesses. But the question lies that in India we are working on models that have existed somewhere else already. There is, in terms of innovation, we are rebuilding something that has been built in another geography. So do you believe that your statement for that you would want to take a bet in India, do you see that there's a large maybe tech company or someone that's innovating in a certain industry or a sector that'll come about and really kind of put India more on the map for being a leader, that India is the reason for why maybe X topic or X industry has been started? Do you believe in that, or do you think that we will
I
continue
do,
doing
and I firmly do. I think for this question, or the genesis of this question lies in India not having, let's say, the top 20, 30 global tech companies. And now I think some of our companies may be getting there as well. But we have to think about this from a different standpoint.
Okay.
When did we start building such large or futuristic businesses? And I would say that that journey is just 2 decades.
Interesting.
Right? By 2000, 2010 is when the real internet technology revolution in this country started, because the telecom revolution was sort of starting to increase internet penetration. And on top of that, multiple businesses have been built or started getting built. So I think we have to, and it's a comparative question in some ways, right?
Correct.
We should take into account when did we start and when did others start. And when you do that correction in the way you think about it, what we've achieved or what we've managed to achieve as large businesses in this country in the last couple of decades, I would say now in the next decade or so, you will see some really innovative businesses coming out. And in fact, quick commerce could be a very good, interesting example, because quick commerce hasn't scaled up to the levels or the way we are scaling it up in a lot of other developed countries as well.
Right.
And if I start making a list of things, I'm sure we will have a list of things which are now starting to cater to specific Indian needs, and that innovation can be used in other parts of the world also. That's one answer from me, which is more the time correction and the journey that we've traveled in an accelerated manner. The second thing that I strongly believe in is that we are a very large country with a very large number of consumers. And whatever bottom of pyramid innovation that we can and we will do as entrepreneurs in this country, that has the potential to scale not just in developed countries, but in some of the developing countries of Africa and so on and so forth. And that kind of innovation, I'm sure, will come out in the next decade. So if you solve for India, you solve for the world, really.
Really, yeah. And I think that answer has actually changed about how I look at it as well. Before asking the question and after hearing the answer, I strongly believe that in myself I have seen maybe two opinions. Now you're right. I think comparatively, we have only been here for not even 2 decades actually, right? It's actually less, about 15 years and lesser. And the velocity at which we're rapidly increasing, that is probably something that we would want to bet on. And I think the best example for us has been the India stack, right? When we talk about linking our Aadhaar, PAN, UPI, I know for a fact that a lot of companies from India are going to African countries where those are, let's say, maybe India 15, 20 years ago, and they want to implement the same stack and see what benefits it has gotten for India. Can it also get those benefits across there? So I think that's the best example right now. And when we talk about innovation, of course, the talk of the town has been for a while around artificial intelligence, machine learning, right? So how do you see AI and ML, reshaping the landscape of online classified platforms? Do you believe that it could, replace some human-driven processes? maybe with example or with light for how it is helping or redefining how certain things have been working at OLX itself?
Sure. See, I think the current AI revolution, which is also the large language models, is definitely something that is going to change the way we use internet and services or find them. Uh, some of it is already starting to or beginning to show up in different platforms, and as OLX also we use machine learning and AI in a lot of our processes, which includes the kind of content that comes our way. There are millions of users who put their products up for sale. There are images, there is text content, and how do we find the right content, how do we filter the content and make it safe for the community. So we use a lot of AI and machine learning there. In addition, we use AI and machine learning in all the user traffic that comes our way to make our users safe. So a lot of safety, security, content moderation, user recommendation, which product are you the most likely to have or buy, or is the right product for you in your vicinity. Some of those things are done using these machine learning models that our team uses. So a lot of it is ongoing and continues to be an important part of our strategy. In a broader sense, I do believe that a lot of these things are starting to change the way we use internet as well. So my 11 years old son who's in 7th class, and I used to have a paid chat GPT, and one day he called me and said, पापा वो चैट जीपीटी का पेड सब्सक्रिप्शन आपको वापस लेना पड़ेगा. एंड आई आस्क्ड हिम व्हाई. पापा मेरा फ्रेंच का एग्जाम आ रहा है.
अच्छा.
So what he uses ChatGPT for is, he uploads his books, photographs on ChatGPT, writes his answers on ChatGPT and validates those. Because me and my wife both are not native French speakers or know enough of French, despite having stayed in Paris for a while. And that's a use case that's going to change the way we learn as well. So a lot of basic use cases would start to creep in. At the same time, I do believe that we will see these LLMs helping us more when they become LAMs or large action models.
Okay.
When AI can or is allowed to take certain actions on behalf of the user. When AI can help you book an Uber cab, or when you want to say, okay, these are certain things that I don't want to do. Can you do it on my behalf from tomorrow? That's when it will become a much deeper or more ingrained part of who we are. I think there is still some time to us reaching there. And I was talking to a very smart and well-known person in the industry, and he said that today's LLMs are the dumbest and the most expensive.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because these chips are expensive and they consume a lot of electricity, and they are dumbest because they also make mistakes. So when my son does upload a French question and answers, sometimes that answer can be wrong, right? And the model is unable to tell. So that all those things would fine-tune themselves. So I would be patient. Give us a few years for AI to really come into action.
Very well said. I agree on your, I think, large actionable model part, where when can they actually start taking actions. And I think we're already slowly starting to see the forefront of that a little bit. Of course, like you correctly said, it's early days. But, with respect to, how, for example, Apple is now very much promoting their artificial or Apple intelligence, as they're calling it, right? Yeah. And I think the entire point of that is that it can kind of take over, or at least take over the mundane parts of your life. That, hey, listen, can you book my calendar, book an appointment, maybe not book an Uber for you yet, but at least can you set up the meeting so that I can take an Uber and go, right? So we're seeing slowly bits and pieces of it, and it's going to be really exciting over the next 5-10 years for how we can make these LLMs into LAMs, like you're correctly saying. With your insights in the commerce marketplace industry of India and across the world as well, you've been there a lot of different years, a lot of different cycles, a lot of different trends that have come and gone, new ones replacing earlier ones, more exciting ones coming about. If you could change one thing about the way that people buy and sell online currently, with all your learnings that you have had in your professional career, what would it be?
I wouldn't want to change anything. I think as platform builders and as business builders, our platforms need to cater to what the consumer wants. And that's what is our job. Changing consumer and consumer habits is a tougher thing to do, more difficult thing to do. Becoming a part of the consumer's life in a seamless manner. And a good example is OLX. We just became a part of Indian ecosystem, and we started helping our consumers do what they were doing earlier slightly better, right? So the easier part was to get OLX become a part of the Indian psyche. The more difficult part for OLX also in its journey was to change the negative connotations around selling the old or buying the old. So I would say that as platform builders, we should figure ways out to become a part of what exists and make real consumer businesses out of that.
Interesting. And that actually is a automatic segue, because you mentioned a couple of things around trust, around the changing the philosophy of old in somebody's mindset and seamlessly integrating it into somebody's life, right? And our next section talks a lot about that, which is BYOB, which is build your own business. These are some questions that are framed around what would somebody maybe who's starting their new business or maybe starting to work in a new company, what advice would they want to hear from Amit Kumar to help them continuously build or continuously scale their business up as well? So what's one piece of advice that you would give to other entrepreneurs who are looking to innovate in a saturated market and B, in an untapped market?
I think this definition of saturated or untapped market is a bit questionable, because the way you define your market for Coca-Cola, is the market saturated or not, because they would treat everyone who drinks water as their target audience. So by that definition, they are also not saturated. But I would sort of reframe this to a more mature consumer need versus a new consumer need.
Okay.
And I would say that whenever there is inspiration or companies trying to do what you are trying to do, then execution is the most important thing to do. And eventually great businesses are built on top of great execution. It's easy to have an idea, and you and I can sit together here for 60 minutes and we'll have 10 different startup ideas, and 5 of them could be really great, and one of them is going to be a unicorn in next 10 years, most definitely. But both of us are not going to execute on that for the next 10 years, and hence that unicorn is not going to be ours. Right? So I think execution is a very, very important part when it comes to a business which is more mature, which has peers. There are companies trying to do or outdo each other. When it comes to more newer ways of understanding the consumer or consumer need, I believe that getting a very deep understanding of your consumer and consumer's life and how your product fits into that seamlessly is an important aspect. So I would encourage people in that context to just be that consumer, live that consumer, and live that consumer's life to be able to build the product or service on top of it. I think the second aspect, of course, is, can that opportunity be a profitable business?
Right.
Because it's a new area and you might be exploring, and one should definitely evaluate without any bias for cheap capital as to, can that business make 60-70% gross margins and 30-40% EBITDA margins, and then only pick those opportunities up. Because in the current context, you really need to make profitable businesses and make those P&L line items or projections work.
I agree. I think P0 is always going to be execution, regardless of where wherever your trajectory might take you there. The reason for why I'm asking, right, is because, the online marketplace space, for example, right, not only is it constantly evolving, of course, execution with consumer insights and, like you're saying, seamlessly integrating that, those are always going to be key, right? But with these kind of players, competition from companies like Amazon, Flipkart, any large companies that are resource rich, cash rich, right? What can startups learn from you, or from maybe a strategy that you have implemented at OLX, that would help them maybe carve a niche for themselves in the industry in an already crowded marketplace and against players who are who can easily tomorrow at the click of a button, they can kind of wipe you out, right? So how do you suggest those founders who are starting those kind of companies going up against very large players, how do you carve a niche for themselves?
See, I think again, and it's the same thought process that I would simplify in saying work back from your consumer. If your consumer needs you, then your product should be such that it's better than anybody else, because that's your consumer. Somebody else might have 100 consumers and they may have 50 products catering to that consumer set, but this is your consumer and this is your product, this is your bread and butter, and you make it the best in the world. Right? Work back from the customer and execute to the T. As simple as that.
As simple as that. It's sometimes about as basic fundamentals as that, right?
Correct.
Understood. And when we talk about, you were mentioning earlier in the past about trust, right? A lot of companies that that EMB has worked with are companies who are essentially trying to solve for the problem of trust, for the problem that hey, you can come to me, you can get that solved. Considering it's such a crucial factor, and I'm sure you have, of course, seen and heard what people have to say about, sometimes when their deliveries are not coming on time, when their shipments are not, as what has been depicted when they were initially buying it. And, a lot of founders who have come to us as well, they have tried to solve this problem, right? And I think OLX has also had a fair share of, some people might be calling it scammy or fraudulent products that are being displayed. How do you how does OLX today solve for the problem of trust and to get past these comments or these kind of activities that users would have to say about it?
So this is, again, I think a very, very good question and important question. And I try and take this answer in wherever I meet people on public forums, because it's my responsibility as a representative of OLX to answer this. See, as OLX, we take consumer safety as paramount in anything and everything we do. And we use our platform and our resources to the highest level to ensure that our consumers are having a safe experience on the platform. And there are massive amounts of machine learning and AI generated models on top of human intelligence interventions that we do to ensure that people who are trying to misuse or create insecure experience for either our buyers or sellers are taken out of the community or are put aside, so that people who are behaving responsibly have a great experience on OLX. And there is a lot of effort that we do. There is a trust and safety team that we have whose 24 hours job is to just ensure that people have a safe and secure experience using OLX. On top of that, we run a lot of education initiatives for our consumers. We provide the right ways to transact on OLX. And it's our responsibility to tell people what are the right things to do when you are buying or selling a product. So you should never pay upfront before looking at the product. You should never meet someone in a non-public environment. We encourage people to meet in places where there are other people, a cafe or a metro station or a market, and not something which is secluded. And all these things are to educate consumers about what are the right things to do when you are going to transact with somebody on OLX community.
This brings us to our next segment, which is, trick or tech. So what we'll be doing, this is the fun part of our podcast today. We are going to be displaying a couple of statements on the screen, and there are going to be 3 statements in each question, for lack of a better word. And 2 of them are trick, and 1 of them is tech. Hence, the segment's name is trick or tech. So trick is essentially that these statements are not true, and tech means that these are solutions that are being implemented currently with the help of technology.
Sure.
So if you could divert your eyes onto the screen. So the first one, a fitness platform uses holographic trainers that appear in your home and offer real-time feedback on your workouts, adjusting the difficulty based on your posture and progress. Second statement, fitness mirrors have launched that stream live workouts from personal trainers, and the mirror itself tracks your form, progress, and provides AI-driven corrections in real time. And the third statement, a shoe manufacturer has invented sneakers that automatically adjust their sole thickness depending on the terrain, be it concrete or grass, offering custom cushioning for every surface that you walk on.
So I have to pick one out of these three, which is
So which one
solution.
which one do you think is being solved by tech, and which one which two do you think are not are trick statements and are not true?
I think each one of them would be in some stage of development. I would pick maybe two. That seems like possible quite easily. So I would pick two.
Correct, and two is the tech part, is the statement that is being done by tech. Just to give you and of course some of our viewers a little bit more insight onto this. So there are a lot of companies nowadays. One company, for example, by the name of Magic.fit, they've recently raised about $4.2 million as well from investors, and they're focused a lot into the personalized fitness space, where they install a mirror, of course a smart mirror. They install it in the comfort of your own home, and it kind of evaluates everything about your posture. It's like a pretty much a gym trainer that is coming to your house in the form
So
of a
I'll
mirror.
not tell this to my yoga trainer.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that when you do your yoga in the morning, yeah, it's maybe in the future it could be a use case that is being solved by this mirror as well. But yes, well noted over here for yours. The second part. So this trick or tech statements are around tech innovations, and the first statement. A contact lens is being developed that can convert the text from a physical book directly into your brain, letting you read a book without even opening it. The second statement. E-readers are now equipped with AI that analyzes your reading habits and suggests the optimal reading speed, pauses, and intervals to improve your comprehension and retention. And the third statement. A futuristic book reading lamp uses light patterns to project entire book pages into the air in front of you, allowing you to scroll through chapters just by the wave of your hand.
So it's unlikely to be one, because then I would stop reading anything and everything would go into my brain right away. Between two and three, I have a toss. Two seems more sort of easy to implement than three. So I would go with two.
Again, very well guessed. Just a statement around this is that the number of ebook readers have been exponentially increasing over the last few years, and it's projected that within the next 3 years, it is going to be reaching about 1.1 billion people who are going to be using ebooks as readers. And there are already a few companies that are implementing this, and in fact, one company that we all know, Google, they have a vertical, or they have a department by the name of Read Along, and in that they are actually continuously improving of how can the reader experience become a lot better. Today it might be early days, where they are focusing more on how can they make the reading experience more pleasurable, but in the future it is going according to with kind of like how we do karaoke machines with the lyrics coming up according to how you have to sing it.
Sure.
Similar in that fashion, according to how fast you read and how well orchestrated you are with grammars, words, etc.
Makes sense.
They're trying to make that pleasurable, the experience even more pleasurable. The third, so this is around quirky inventions. The first statement: a pet collar equipped with AI can now translate your dog's barks into basic human language, allowing you to understand whether they're hungry, excited, or anxious. The second statement: a self-cleaning water bottle that uses UVC light to sanitize the interior and keep the water bacteria-free for days has been created for those on the go. The third statement: a drone designed to carry your grocery bags following you home autonomously is currently being tested, aiming to eliminate the need for human carrying of purchases altogether.
Again, it's between 2 and 3 for me. 3 should be the one which can, because there are anyways drone deliveries happening. I would go with 3.
Okay, so the second statement is actually the tech.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Whereas you're right, the third statement is also partially true, but not yet autonomously.
Sure.
It's where they're doing the grocery part of it, but not autonomously yet, and following you especially.
For that, you need husbands.
Yeah, I'm not going to agree or disagree, but yeah, with your experience, I guess that's true. So yeah, the second statement is the what is being solved by tech, and there's a very big company by the name of Lark, LARQ. There are some other companies as well, but Lark is one that is popular and commonly known amongst quite a few people. You can buy it on Amazon as well. They have a UV light that is attached onto the bottle cap, which kills about 99.9% of bacteria. I'm not saying that it purifies the water, but bacteria is around, there's a bacteria by the name of E. coli, which basically, the smell of the water, the bacteria that kind of causes, let's say, food poisoning into the water
Yeah.
as well. So this is actually being solved currently by UVC. I'm not sure if it's 99.9%, but they do have studies, reports and tests that they have published on their website, which, shows that it is definitely improving, and it is actually helping keeping water bacteria free and bacteria clean.
I would have loved the 3 to be true, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say some statement, but I think maybe that's more of a behind the scenes statement. But yeah, if I personally speaking, I'm a very big dog lover as well. So, if the day that one comes out to be true, that will be pretty interesting to see how it works out. Coming to the last trick or tech question that we have. So the first statement, this is around fashion and technology. So first statement, a jacket is in development that can change its color depending on your body temperature, allowing you to personalize your style based on how hot or cold you feel at any moment. The second statement, shoes have been developed with smart insoles that analyze your walking pattern and send data to a connected application to help correct posture and reduce joint strain. The third statement, there's a concept for sunglasses that adjust their tint automatically based on your emotions, sensing when you're stressed and darkening the lenses to calm you down.
I would go with 2.
Correct. So 2 is, in fact, interestingly for all, there are parts of it that are currently being true. We are seeing color changing technology across clothes. In fact, it was recently, about maybe a year ago, it was featured in the, I believe, Paris Fashion Week or London Fashion Week, where the dress was the same, but colors and designs would change accordingly to whatever person would set it, but not according to moods. It would be according to, let's say, somebody making from their smartphone. And this third one, of course, there's some truth to it. Not yet maybe where it's sensing what it is and darkening on its own. The second one is actually interesting, and I, of course, have a person likely to it. I'm a very big shoe engineer by passion. Have worked in Adidas as well. So back in the day, about maybe 10 years ago, there were already chips that were coming out. For example, Adidas had released MyFit, Nike had released, MiFit, Fit, and Nike had released Nike Plus. These were chips at that time. And companies like ASICS had actually led the revolution when it came to going into their stores and showing them the gait analysis of how their shoe should be shaped, like what should be the level of thickness of the sole, etc. So that is actually being taken one level forward. A company by the name of Digit Sole, they have a technology called Podo Smart, and this is actually replacing the large machines, the treadmills that are required to kind of analyze your gait and give you a shoe accordingly that fits you better for whatever XYZ use case that you might have. So this is something that's very interesting, and I'm looking forward to see how it can continuously innovate as well. This brings us to the last statement of our trick or tech. And now the last section of our interview is around the rapid fire. So I'm going to be quickly asking you a few questions, simple MCQ questions, and you have to choose one or the other, whatever comes to you immediately first. So starting our rapid fire, the first statement, automated customer service or human interaction?
Human interaction.
Okay. Buy or barter?
Barter.
Okay, interesting. Data-driven decisions or gut instincts?
Data-driven decisions.
Okay. Building a personal brand as an entrepreneur or promoting the company brand above all?
Promoting the company brand above all.
Okay. Promoting from within the organization or hiring external candidates?
Promoting from within. Our people have to grow.
Okay. And last, of course, I know you're a big fan of reading. So fiction or non-fiction?
Non-fiction.
Any reason for why you choose non-fiction?
I started my journey by reading J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter, like most of us. But now I find spending time with non-fiction more enlightening.
Okay. I personally like non-fiction books as well. I think fiction mein thoda actually, you need to be in that headspace.
You can watch your movies, right?
Yeah,
Good fiction will always come into movies.
That's true. But Amit, that brings us to, the last part of our podcast. And, first of all, of course, thank you so much for taking out the time and, having a word with me, having a word for our viewers who are going to be watching this. I truly believe that, a lot of insights and answers that you gave today, not only is it going to be beneficial for me, of course, but I think it's very instrumental and important for anybody to hear this. A lot of things that you said today are not necessarily said a lot in public forums. And I think truly credit to you about where you are today, how you have come here, how you have reached here. So thank you for taking out the time, and I really do appreciate it. I hope you had a wonderful session on Beyond Business Hours, and I look forward to staying in touch with you and maybe doing a lot of things very soon together as well.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much, Amit.
Cheers.
For the rest of you, so we will again be tuning back to Beyond Business Hours in the next episode that you will be seeing. Stay tuned for more. We will have many more inspiring and influential leaders such as Amit Kumar who are going to be coming on to the podcast. And I look forward to hear what you have to say, for your comments, and any other questions that you might like us to ask in the future in our segments. Thank you once again. And Amit, thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.